What you know, Alibis? Welcome to another episode of Pretty Lies and Alibis. I'm Gigi. It's Monday, May 12th. Hope you guys have had a good day so far. Just a heads up for tomorrow, I have to get up at 4 in the morning to get Grammy to Clemson for her outpatient spine surgery. So I'll be bringing her home, and obviously, top priority, making sure she's comfortable and has everything she needs. But I should have that update out for you at some point late tomorrow. And then Thursday, my son graduates that evening. And again, it may be really late that night or even the next morning when I get that recap out. So sorry for the delay on those 2 days, but life happens. And these are both really happy events for our family. So it's all good. I may ask that doctor tomorrow to start me a coffee IV to get through this week. Let's jump right back in to the day 14 recap. For, I believe, the third day in a row, Yuri Bukhenik back on the stand on cross exam. They talk about the snowplow driver who saw the Ford Edge that was moved in the early morning hours of January 29th. The witness said they learned about that, but it wasn't his recollection that it was what the defense described it as. The defense says it wasn't there when he passed by around 2:30 in the morning, but it was when he passed by maybe an hour later around 3:30. He remembers because it was in his way. Did he say when he first saw it in front of the house? The witness says he isn't sure, but thinks it was sometime in the middle of the night. He's asked what steps they took to see who, if anyone, owned a Ford Edge associated with 34 Fairview, and the witness doesn't know. The defense reminds him that the Albert family had a Ford Edge. And they go back to talking about John's house and the Ring video. You said there was no video from around 12:36 in the morning when Karen's SUV returned. The witness said that they got a key from the Ring Corporation telling them the recording time. The defense asks, was there any evidence Karen accessed the account to that Ring camera? No. The defense says, but there is evidence someone accessed the account through John's cell phone, and the witness is not aware of that. The defense says after his phone was recovered by the Massachusetts State Police, the Ring app was accessed. Do you know by who? He doesn't, so they hand him a report. The witness said that report was authored by Trooper Proctor, and investigators accessed the Ring application, and the defense says no indication Karen Reed did. No. The defense talks about his trip to the hospital and talks about the injuries to John's right arm. You said you saw bruising in addition to the parallel abrasions, and they put that photo up on the screen. What do you mean when you said you saw bruising? The witness said he was talking about bruising on the back of John's right hand. Defense asked, did you see bruises from the wrist to the shoulder? The witness said that the photo up on the screen is what he saw. The defense asked if he knows what lividity is, which is the pooling of blood when someone passes away and they lay in one position. Gravity takes over and the blood will pool in the lowest area. The defense points out John's right upper bicep and asked if that looks like it could be consistent with lividity rather than bruising, and the witness doesn't know. They move on to when Karen's SUV was seized, which was around 4:12 p.m. And Proctor swore under oath affidavits for the search warrants that the car was seized at 5:30. You were there and you knew the time, and that's a false statement. The witness says there is a discrepancy there, but he took no action to correct the time in any of the affidavits. He said they actually learned of that time discrepancy much later. The defense asks if when the witness reviewed Proctor's declarations, they didn't know a video existed of the seizure. And the witness said they did not know. Defense, you are a supervisor over Proctor, and that's to ensure quality control over your subordinates and their investigations. On August 17th, 2022, you were in a group text with Trooper Proctor, Kakowski, DeChico, and Trooper Fanning, and he hands him a document. The defense says Trooper DeChico sent a photo to this thread, and the witness said it possibly appears that way, and so they published the photo. It's a picture of David Yannetti, who is on a news channel, and the defense has the witness point out Yannetti there in court. You responded to that photograph by laughing at it. The witness says that's what this says, yes. Defense, that's what it says, or that's what you did? The witness doesn't remember, but Proctor responded, funny. I'm going through his R words client's phone. R meaning like a terrible word we just don't say in today's society. Then Proctor texted, no nudes so far. And in response to the photo of Yannetti, Proctor said, I hate that man. I truly hate him. Trooper Moore disliked Proctor's comment, no nudes so far. Did that indicate he was disappointed? No naked photos have been found of my client? The witness says he doesn't know what he meant. The defense says, but you responded to the phrase, funny, I'm going through his R word client's phone. The witness said he acknowledged the text. The defense says, by using a thumbs up, Proctor told you he was going through her phone, looking for naked photos of her. And the witness says he didn't say he was going through 4 naked photos. Defense says, well, what do you think he was looking for? The witness, I don't know. The defense says you can't comment or you don't want to comment. You took no action from stopping him from looking for naked photos of my client. And last week, you testified in your view, Proctor handled himself with integrity regarding this investigation. Do you stand by that? The witness said the investigation was handled with integrity and honor. Defense, and in regards to how Proctor handled himself, how do you feel? The witness said he stands by saying Trooper Proctor handled himself with honor and integrity. The witness says he does not remember him using the R word. The witness does agree the word is vile in modern society. Defense, did you encourage that statement by giving a thumbs up? The witness doesn't know if it encouraged him. He acknowledged the text being sent and took no action. The defense asked the witness if that's an abuse of power by Proctor, and the witness says it doesn't show integrity and honor. October 15th, 2022, you completed a performance review and you were asked to rank oral and written form, and you rated Proctor as exceptional and wrote, Proctor displays professional demeanor, composure, dignity, and respect in his duties, and especially in his interaction with the public. And this was after the text when he calls her the R word and uses the R word. The witness says his statement about Trooper Proctor in that review was true. Defense says the phone belonged to the Massachusetts State Police at that point, and he used that power and authority to look for nude photos. You also reviewed his investigation ability. You rated him outstanding and wrote, Proctor has a high-profile caseload with a lot of eyes and pressure from external sources from the first day, and has handled himself with the utmost professionalism and competence. He investigated with competence and integrity. The witness says that sounds accurate. The witness goes on to say, Proctor has a First Amendment right to comment, and it's unfortunate what he said, and it could have been born out of frustration. The defense says, but he was updating his boss, and the witness disagrees. This was a group chain where they were discussing private matters in their lives. And the defense says, including going through her phone. The witness says that was unfortunate that that was discussed. The defense essentially says Proctor is two-faced from public to private and goes on for a minute about this. And finally, the judge tells the defense to move on. The defense says he put it in writing and you liked it. The witness said no, he acknowledged the message but did not see the vile term. Defense, before or during the interview with Chris and Julie Albert at their residence on February 10th, did Proctor discuss a previous relationship he had with Chris and Julie Albert and their family? The witness said as they were walking up to the door to do the interview, Proctor stated he knew of them from around town and through a friendship. The witness asked Proctor questions like, do you hang out with them? And he said he knew them through people around town. The defense says, well, what about his wife? The witness said it didn't come up at the time, but later he learned accusations, but he doesn't know the extent. The defense asked, well, what did you learn? The witness said in July of 2023, he learned through court proceedings of Proctor having a friendship with them, but the witness said that wasn't factual. They have a sidebar. The defense moves on to the witness recovering videos from the Canton Police Department at the request of Trooper Proctor, and he gave those videos to Trooper Proctor. There were 4 separate videos. One is someone in the parking area outside of the Canton Police Department at 1:30 in the morning on January 29th. The second is the sallyport. Somebody goes in through the pedestrian door, not the internal door from the police station. The third video is an interior corridor looking down a hallway in a police station. And the fourth, outside again. The witness said he would have to see the videos. So they bring those in. They start with the rear parking lot of the Canton Police Department. And you see Brian Higgins' Jeep Wrangler with that snowplow on front pull into a spot, and you see him get out. The defense asks if there is something in Higgins' hands, and the witness says possibly. Another video from 1:27 a.m. Higgins is walking at the bottom of the frame in the rear parking lot. Then he enters that sally port from the outside at 1:27. 1:28 a.m., you see him in the hallway on the first floor. He's walking down the hall and goes into a room on the left side of the frame closest to the camera. And he comes out at 1:29. There is a gap of 6 minutes in this footage because later he is seen near the office again at 1:34. The defense said something about that being a motion activated camera, but really didn't dive too deep into that. In another clip, you see Higgins leave through that external sallyport door. And the defense asked the witness if Higgins has something in his hand. They zoom in, and it looks like he puts a phone up to his ear. At 1:34 in another clip, you see what looks like a cell phone that's illuminated right near his face. Another clip, Higgins is walking in the parking lot with what looks like a cell phone still in his right hand. You see Higgins get inside his Jeep. He goes back to a truck and carries something. The witness said it looks like a snow broom. Higgins proceeds to get in the Jeep and leaves at 1:45. The witness said he does not have a friendship with Higgins, and they worked together in the past, and that's about it. Now the defense enters the sallyport video from the interior. The Commonwealth asked you on direct if the video of the car arriving in the sallyport was accurate, and you said yes. At this point, the judge sends the jury out for lunch. They proffer the witness asking about Proctor's relationship with the Alberts. There were some Facebook posts with kids, something about Trooper Proctor's mom saying that the Alberts were second family to them. It went on for about 20-25 minutes, this proffering. In the end, the judge would not allow that testimony to come in. After lunch, they bring in the video of when Karen's SUV was brought into the sallyport. You can see snow all over it. Now, 5:37 p.m. on January 29th is when the video starts. This is the one that was brought in from a prior proceeding. And the people in the video are the tow truck driver and Michael Proctor. As it appears in the video, we are looking at the right passenger side of the vehicle. But when you previously testified, you said you or Michael Proctor did not touch the right side of this vehicle. The witness says he doesn't remember exactly the words he said, but that's along the lines of what he did say. The defense says, but the important thing is this video is backwards. And the witness said it is a mirror image of what is actually taking place. They flipped the video. They paused the video, and the witness is asked, where did Proctor go? The witness said it depicts him going to that portion of the vehicle, meaning the right taillight area. But he also says you can't tell how close he is. The defense says, but from this video, it appears to be the driver's side. The defense also points out you see Proctor's head towards the right rear portion of the car. He asked the witness what it looked like Proctor did at this certain point. The witness said it seems like he shifted his weight. They play some more and stop, and the defense asks, does it appear like a person morphed near the right portion of the vehicle? The witness said there is some anomaly there with the footage. The defense asked about the other person and if he seems to be smaller in size compared to Proctor, and then asked the witness about Chief Berkowitz. The witness can't say for sure that is Berkowitz, so they play the video some more. They asked the witness if he sees anything in Proctor's hand, a black portfolio, and the witness cannot tell. And then he asked the witness to read the time, but the witness can't because it's flipped and it's backwards. They show another video that was previously played and has the witness say it shows Proctor walking to the right rear of the car. You see Proctor's head in the right taillight area. He shifts a bit and then turns and goes to walk out of the bay door and asks, does that look to be a portfolio in his hand? And the witness says yes. The defense asked the witness if he remembers when they played this video at a previous trial, and he said it fairly and accurately depicted the car inside the sallyport. And the defense says that wasn't quite true, was it? The witness said what is happening and what is transpiring in the video is accurate. The defense says that shows the exact opposite of what was truly correct. Left was right and right was left. And the witness said it is just a mirror image. They bring in the corrected video, meaning it's not flipped, and it shows Proctor walk to the right rear taillight portion of the SUV, and the witness says yes. The video was taken before any taillight material was ever found at 34 Fairview, and asked the witness what time was this taken. The witness asked if they could zoom in. The defense says, I can't. This is backwards. The witness said it was 5:35 p.m. when the SUV came in. The defense asks, is 5:35 before 5:45? Yes. The defense points out the Canton Police Department is 1.5 miles away from 34 Fairview and a 3 to 4 minute drive. The witness said approximately, and it depends on weather as well as your speed. Defense, there would be a video on the other side pointing down at that rear right taillight area. He shows a photo and asks if that's a still image from that camera. Yes. They put that on the screen. You see Proctor at the taillight area. The witness says he cannot identify that person as Proctor. Is zoomed in a bit and says it could be Chief Berkowitz, but he doesn't know. They play another video, and in this, there is an antique police cruiser in that sallyport, and next to the area, it looks to be empty. The timestamp on this is January 29th at 5:07 p.m. The defense plays it again and asks how many seconds just went by in real time. The witness says 5 seconds. However, you see the Lexus in there, and the timestamp is 5:50 p.m. on January 29th. The defense says in 5 seconds, the time jumped from before the SUV was in the sallyport to after it had arrived. The witness says yes. On redirect, they ask the witness if he inverted the video. He says no. The town of Canton applied lenses that were inverted, and that was also done at other locations around town and not just in the sallyport area. He's asked if he further investigated if it was historically the way the video appeared inside the sallyport. The witness said it had been recording that way up to January 29th. He wanted to show it was not manipulated, and he went back several weeks before the incident, and it was still the same inverted or mirrored video. Brennan says the first items were found at 5:45, and where were you and Proctor at that time? The witness said at the Canton Police Department. He said they stayed once the SUV was there to be sure the evidence was being protected by putting up tape around it, and then they made plans to go to dinner. They went to the conference room before they left, and he remembers talking to Chief Berkowitz. They were also in the dispatch area, so he said there were many people that saw the two of them there. Trooper Proctor was with him at the police department when those first pieces of taillight were found. He said they weren't always right there together, but they were within view of each other. Did you see Proctor hand Berkowitz pieces of taillight? No. Did you see him put any taillight pieces in the portfolio? The witness said that would be absurd. The witness and Proctor left the police department around 6 o'clock to go to dinner, and they made no stops. After eating, they went back to the police department sometime after 7:30 for a debrief so everybody could talk about where everything stood and also to assign tasks. Brennan asked if he ever made a detour to Fairview. No. The witness learned the CERT team had found the missing sneaker and a large piece of taillight. He also knew statements Karen had made about that broken taillight. Brennan goes through all the people at 34 Fairview and asks if he knew or had any relationship with anybody there. The witness knew Higgins and had worked on a case with him, and he knew of Brian Albert. Brennan asked if he owed Higgins a favor. There was an objection that was sustained. So he asked, "Did you have any loyalty or friendship?" No. The witness says on the morning of the incident, he heard a broken cocktail glass had been found near John. But Karen had made statements like, "Did I hit him?" He wanted to talk to witnesses that were at 34 Fairview. So he went to speak with Jen and Matt McCabe and Brian Albert. That was at the McCabe's home. And the reason he went there is because there was a blizzard. And also, he said they had been through a traumatic incident. He says he separated the witnesses when he talked to them. After interviewing the McCabes and Brian Albert, he said he had no reason to think John made it inside the home that night. He didn't have any reason to go into 34 Fairview, and he knew the Canton Police Department had been inside the home, and they saw nothing that raised any suspicions or anything about the witnesses' behavior that caused any of them to be suspicious. The witness says after seeing John's body, he changed his assessment from an attack with a cocktail glass to John being hit by a car. He said the force he thought would have been needed to cause these injuries is the reason he made the decision to go see Karen's car to look for damage, as well as statements made by Jen McCabe. And after seeing the car, he wanted to talk to Karen. He said his focus was starting to shift around this time. When he interviewed Karen, she was on her parents' couch. He said he did that for the same reasons he interviewed the McCabes in their house. Her dad did stay while they talked, and he thought that was okay because her dad was not at the scene, and he didn't see any reason to separate Karen and her dad. He described Karen as calm, stoic, and poised, and he didn't get the feeling there was any animosity between Karen and John. They go over how many people told him statements that Karen had made. When he interviewed EMT Katie McLaughlin on January 30th, she says she heard Karen say, "I hit him." February 8th, he interviewed EMT Nuttall. He heard her say, "I hit him." That same day, EMT Daniel Whitley said Karen told him that her and John had been arguing the night before this happened. She also asked Whitley if John was still alive. He said that further supported the witnesses' statements and information that they had been collecting. Brennan starts to ask about Flamati and what he heard, but there was a sidebar and the judge tells Brennan to move on. Aside from Karen's statements that she made to witnesses, the physical evidence was important. They also got the black box data from Karen's car. They jump around here a bit because this is redirect, but the witness said nobody put John in the home that night. They go through some evidence collection and how it was obtained. Brennan asks if he didn't ask the witness about some items that were retrieved, and the witness said, "You did not." There were 3 different dates. Proctor found taillight pieces. The first time was on February 8th, and he was alone when he found those. They have the witness bring those out and show them to the jury. Proctor also found more pieces on February 11th and the 18th. The witness did find some on February 10th. The hat was found on February 3rd, and the witness said it was frozen to the grass and it was flat. There was still snow on the ground at this point. They also have the witness hold up John's pants, which shows grass stains on them. As far as Higgins' phone, the witness vetted the extraction given to him by Higgins, and he found no discrepancies. He reviewed text messages between John and Higgins, and in the end, he found no motive for Higgins to kill John. Recross. Where was the interview with Higgins? The witness said it was at the home of Higgins' attorney. Higgins requested his attorney be present. The defense asked if jealousy could be a motive for Higgins to confront John. The witness says to him, it was Karen who was pursuing Higgins, and while the flirtation was mutual at times, your client reached out to him first. The defense mentions the well text that was sent to Karen while they were all at the waterfall together, but the witness says he couldn't say what Higgins meant and if that indicated any jealousy, and he said he didn't look any further into that. Still talking about the waterfall video, you see Chris Albert put his hand on Higgins' arm. Higgins then puts his hand on his head and motions to someone across the room and asks the witness, was that Higgins asking John to step outside? The witness didn't see it that way since they had all invited John and Karen to come over to 34 Fairview, and there was no confrontation outside. But the defense points out that Higgins was the first person to arrive at 34 Fairview even before Brian Albert. He also notes John and Karen left about 10 minutes after Higgins, and they were the last to arrive at 34 Fairview. So there was no confrontation outside. The witness said he would take the defense's word for it. The defense says sometimes a fight can go wrong and every death isn't intentional, and the witness agrees. The defense says something goes wrong, somebody dies. He moves on to the taillight pieces by the CERT team. On redirect, you said they found a large piece during their initial search. The witness said, that's what I remember. But the defense says, do you remember being told they found 6 or 7 pieces of small plastic material in addition to the shoe? The witness said he thought it was a large piece of plastic and not a shard. Defense, were you told the pieces were found within a 2-foot radius? He doesn't remember. Defense, the photo of the taillight shows all of it is gone, but Jen McCabe told you the taillight was only cracked and broken. The witness said that was over the phone to Trooper Proctor, and that was documented later within the interview report. Defense, in that interview report, it doesn't say the entire lens is gone. The witness says no, and he doesn't know what Jen McCabe told Proctor over the phone. The defense talks about Higgins coming back from a funeral for an officer, and he had started drinking somewhere else and ended up at the waterfall. He also says you didn't have the information that Higgins was at the police station or on the phone while there. No, that was it. Yuri Bukhenik is done. So that is it for today. Hope you guys have a good rest of your evening, and we will see you soon.